If I gave you $1 million tomorrow, how would you invest it? Interesting question. Well, today in this video, I'm going to share with you the single best investment. In fact, the 6-step investing framework that will produce better returns than stocks, crypto, real estate, possibly even all combined. And it's sitting right underneath your nose right now. And if you're a business owner, health professional, entrepreneur, who's looking to make more money from what you're already doing, this is for you. Welcome back, guys. It's Uriel Kamer, CEO and founder of Healthpreneur. Why should you even listen to me about this topic in the first place? Well, because I've built financial freedom in the service of a lot of people. I've built and sold businesses over the past 20 years in the online space. And obviously with that comes a certain amount of financial freedom and thoughts around, well, what do I do with this money? And I'm gonna share in this video a very contrarian point of view, and it's probably not what you're gonna be thinking. So before I dive into the 6 levels of ROI-driven investments, which you're gonna wanna jot down, so make sure you've got a pen and paper, I wanna share 3 really important principles with you here. Principle number 1, when it comes to investing, is you always get what you pay for. The only thing in life that I've seen that not to necessarily be true in is wine. I don't drink a lot of wine, but I've also had $900 bottles, and they're not that great compared to a $40 bottle. But outside of that, everything you invest in and pay for, you usually get exactly what you pay for. So keep that in mind as we go through this. Principle number 2 is that multiple streams of income are going to make you poor. Yeah, you heard me. Multiple streams of income are gonna make you less wealthy. Why? Because successful people get successful by ruthlessly focusing on one thing, and they build a lot of net free cash flow from that one thing before they start building multiple streams of income. So please be careful of where you are in the journey and not over diversifying yourself early on, because you will not make the amount of money you want to make by doing that. If you think of all the big names, a lot of the big influencers, creators, the Gary V's, the Grant Cardones, the Lewis Howes, the Hermosis, they didn't start off with the multiple streams that they have now. They, maybe to your knowledge or not knowledge, they actually built a very singular focused business that many people, maybe back in the day, didn't even know about. And from that money, either they sold it or parted ways with that business, they then had the net free cash flow, profitability, money in bank, to then go off and do other things. It wasn't the other way around. So please understand the sequence of how you invest and where you invest your time and money is very, very important in your ability to make more of it. The third principle is that you never lose when you invest in you. So if you're a value extractor and a value giver, you will always win. No matter what it is you're investing in, whether it's a shitty school system or a course that didn't work out too well, or a coach or a mastermind that was like, meh, if you're the type of person who can find value no matter what, you will never lose when you invest in yourself. And also, please understand that you grow yourself by investing in other people. And I'll share more about that in a second. So those are 3 principles I want to help you keep top of mind as we dive into this. So let's get into the 6 levels of ROI-driven investment. So you've got this cash, what do you do with it? Now, please understand, I'm gonna give you this procession of investment vehicles depending on where you are, but there's also, in terms of your monetary journey, if you will, but there's also gonna be a lot of overlap and cyclical nature of this type of investment. So the first investment that we wanna always consider is going to be clarity. What? I thought you're talking about stocks, Yuri. No, I'm not. Because what I'm going to share with you here will make you so much money, you won't even have to invest in stocks. And if you wanted to, that's your choice. So clarity is really about what to do, right? So clarity is a strategy investment. And one of the biggest reasons this is important is that if you don't know what to do, you will waste a lot of time and money doing the wrong things. You see, everything starts with clarity because, as an example, when I started my first business in 2005, I had no clarity. I had no strategy. I said yes to everything and I had no direction. So what ends up happening? I spent 3 years making poverty line income, working my ass off, and little to show for it because I lacked clarity. And clarity is an investment. What do I mean by that? If you don't know what to do, the most dangerous thing you can do is not get clarity on what to do instead. Because if you understand that you can never make more time, but you can always make more money, then you have to invest in direction and guidance to give you that clarity. So this is where coaching, mentorship, advisory is very, very powerful. And this is why if you're investing in a coach, good job. And if you're not, you may want to consider doing so. It should never be an expense on your balance sheet or on your P&L. Because when you don't know what to do, what are the options? Well, you can certainly start off at a very base level and look for information on YouTube. You can buy, or sorry, not even buy, but just like maybe, well, you could buy a book, $30, read some blog posts, and you can certainly use a lot of your time to hopefully find that clarity. But the problem with that is that you end up getting more confused. In the health space, we call that Dr. Google. And that's what a lot of people try to do. They try to piecemeal all this together only to feel more confused. And you might actually be speaking to many of these prospects, right? They've tried to solve their own problem by Googling everything. And now they're just like, I have all this information. They're drowning in information and they're starving for clarity. And so clarity comes from you, the expert. They hire you to tell them, good job on trying all this stuff, but here's the only thing you need to do. That's why people come to work with us, health professionals looking to grow their business online. They don't have the clarity of what to do and what not to do. And we tell them exactly, do this. So step one is about investing in the right strategy. And strategy is simply prioritization, which is another way of saying no to everything other than one thing. But you don't know what that one thing is unless you invest in mentorship or guidance from someone who's actually been there, who can tell you what to focus on. Now, this comes back to my first principle, which is you always get what you pay for. You have to be very careful who you take advice from. There's a reason that this investment is at the base, the foundation of this pyramid, if you will. If you get this wrong, you will build your entire business and livelihood on, it's like you're building this house on a deck of cards. If clarity is the wrong clarity, if you ask someone, hey, what's the best way to get clients? And they tell you something based on very limited experience, based on a very small sample size of their own success and a handful of clients, you better be very careful of taking that advice. If you are getting clarity and advice from someone, you need clarity from someone or maybe several people who have been there and done that many, many, many times before, who have seen the patterns, who have recognized the patterns, and can show you exactly the pitfalls to avoid and what to do instead. This is the single most important reason why all of us need to be working not just with a coach, but an expert level mentor, someone who's been where you want to be over and over and over again. When you deal with this problem and it's keeping you up at night, they can solve it in a second because they've seen it thousands of times. This is the single most important investment you can make. And in my own journey, I struggled for 3 years until I hired my first coach. And I hired that coach with money I didn't have. I used 2 credit cards. And what did I get? Clarity. And clarity feels like relief. Clarity feels like, oh my God, I finally have a roadmap. It's like you're entering a jungle and you're like, oh, I'm smart. I can figure this out. And you have your machete and you're trying to find your own path. And then you end up back at the start and you're like, how did this even happen? What am I doing? And you keep going around. You're like, oh, that's the better way. And you end up frustrated, overworked, burnt out, ready to call it a day. Meanwhile, all you had to do was hire a Sherpa, a guide who's been through that jungle before. And now they just give you the roadmap. And you're like, oh my God, all I had to do was follow this roadmap? Yes. That's called clarity. So that's the single most important investment you have to make no matter what level you're at. I continue to invest a significant amount of money every single month in coaching, mentorship, and advisory for that single reason alone, to get clarity. Give me the one thing to do so I can get just give me that clarity. I don't need to do this stuff. Cool. What's the one thing? I'll go. Okay. So clarity is the first most important investment. The second level of investment is going to be tactics. So clarity is what to do. Tactics are or is how to do it. So, okay, so I'll just use the example of our business. So clarity is you come to us, you're like, I want more clients. We're like, cool. You should have a perfect client pipeline. Don't do all the social media grinds. Don't do all this nonsense. Just build a predictable system to attract clients. It's called a perfect client pipeline. It's got 4 steps. Go. Okay, cool. That's clarity. Tactics. How do I do that? Good question. So the tactics is the step-by-step process. So for instance, when a client enrolls with us in our HBA coaching program, we give them a step-by-step linear process. It's literally a checklist. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do that. Step 3, connect with us for this. Step 4, it's literally like following a recipe. Again, you're investing to get clarity and then specific actionable items so you know what to do, right? So you know exactly how to do it. So if you have to do this, here's how you do it properly. And why would that be important? Because it's like if you don't know how to do it properly, then again, you're going to be spinning your wheels doing things inefficiently. As an example, one of the things that I do with our clients is I review their enrollment calls. So when they're speaking with a prospective client and it goes well or not well, I say, cool, bring that call so we can review it together. And I look at the call and I'm like, I'm really happy you brought this call to me because this is your second, third call. Great. It's better we fix this now than 50 calls down the road, because what's happening here is a pattern of not doing things properly. So they're not tactically doing it well, which means they're going to waste time and money and not getting the results that they want. So again, this comes down to having the right guidance tactically to know how to do things properly. So that's the second investment. And again, here, this can take the form of coaching, mentorship, very specific tactical courses on like how to run Facebook ads or how to run sales calls or like whatever it might be. How to do the thing is a tactical investment. Again, you could certainly use free information for this, but it's going to cost you a lot of time. And at least if you have clarity on what to do, the tactical piece is a little bit easier to put together because at least you know what to do so you can focus your energy down that path. Now, again, if you have no money at all, you can certainly try to piece this together for free. It's just going to take you forever. The third investment we want to be able to make is skills. Now, I'm going to draw a line in the sand here because up until about here, all of this is, I mean, it's like information, info, or money dependent. So I'm talking about, where to invest your money. But part of this is also where to invest your time. You see, successful people understand that money is cheap and time is expensive. But when you're starting out, what you lack in money, you have to make up in time. But again, this also plays even if you're making a lot of money, because you're going to get to a point where you have so much money, you'll ask the question, which very often gets asked, what do I do with all this money, right? What do I do with all my extra money? That, my friends, is what? That is right here, a clarity problem. So what do? You hire a financial advisor, you hire some health guru, you do something like that to get clarity on exactly what to do with your money. You hire an accountant who at a very high level who understands advanced tax strategies so you can keep more of your money instead of wasting it in taxes, as an example. So again, anytime you're asking the question, what should I do? Like that's kind of a clarity question. When you're not sure strategically, but that's the most important thing I would recommend you always want to be investing in. Because if you at least knew what to do, then God forbid if you had no money, you could figure out the others a little bit for free, potentially. But again, I'm still recommending for each of these levels, you're investing your dollars because the transformation happens at the transaction. When you don't invest, you don't pay attention, right? So anyways, so these first 3 are information and or money dependent. So skills, let's talk about those. So clarity is what to do. Tactics are how to do it. Skills are really about how to do it properly. That's the key word, is properly, because, or, how to do it better, how to do it effectively. So skills are Think about efficiency, right? And tactics are about effectiveness, right? It's like how to do it. So you're making sure you're doing the right things, right? Between clarity and tactics. And skills are really about efficiency. If we look at the art or the skill of selling. So a lot of people say that selling is a numbers game. You've heard that before. It's just a numbers game. Get lots of no's and eventually get a yes. Yeah, you could certainly do that, right? But what you're not thinking about there is that if you invested in, let's say, expert sales coaching, and you had, let's say, 100 calls, and you decided to do all those calls yourself, right? You knew what to do. I'm going to do sales calls. And you followed a script. You're like, cool, I know what to do. I know how to do it. I'm going to go do some sales calls. And all of a sudden you have 100 calls and you enroll 20 people. Not too bad, right? Let's say you charge $5,000 for a coaching program. It's $100,000. Not bad at all. But what if you had invested your money, not in stocks or ridiculous nonsense, but in your own skill development by hiring a sales coach or getting mentorship from someone who's exceptional at sales? And on those 100 calls, instead of enrolling 20 people, you were able to enroll 40. What's changed? You knew what to do, you knew how to do it, but now you knew how to do it better. That's a skill game. So selling, in my mind, is a skills game, not so much a numbers game. Because when the skill goes up and then you amplify with numbers, you're just way more efficient. Efficient is getting more with less. That's leverage. And skills give you more leverage. So the more skill you have in any specific area, the more you're going to be able to do with the same amount of input. So think about sales, copywriting, or just writing in general, speaking, whether that's on stage or one-to-many. All of these you can do. Like anyone can do them. Anyone can shoot a video like this. But the difference, if you look at my videos that I first posted in 2007, the difference in those videos compared to now, I knew what to do, I did them, but now I do them, I think, significantly better. Now, obviously, the content has changed. I used to talk about nutrition and fitness and stuff. Now I talk more about business. But how did I do that? Well, I learned how to do it properly. I got guidance and mentorship. And the other thing here with the skill is you learn how to do it properly, and then you just practice it over and over and over again. And that's how you build a skill in anything. You can play soccer, like I play pro soccer as an example. So you can play soccer or you can play professional soccer. So fundamentally, why would someone just go not have what it takes to play professionally? Amongst other things, desire, physical fitness, whatever. If you don't have the skill to play at the highest level, you're not going to play. But how do you build the skill to play at the highest level? You don't do fancy things, because the reality is that masker the fundamentals. So when you look at a professional sports team, a professional soccer team in this example, when they warm up before the game or when they practice, they're not doing special roundhouse bicycle kicks like some, crazy people on YouTube might lend you to believe is what's necessary. No, they do the basics. They do the basics better. Very simple, right? Pass and move, pass and move, pass and move 1,000 times, 1,000 times, 1,000 times. The difference is that pros have simply done it thousands more times than everyone else. Bruce Lee once famously said, "I fear not the man who's done 10,000 kicks once, but the man who's done one kick 10,000 times." That's an example of skill, is you learn how to do the thing properly, and then you drill the shit out of it until it's second nature. So the skills, when I'm talking about investing your money in skills, what I'm saying is there are basic skills or more advanced skills that will help you in any aspect of life. Be willing to invest your money to build those skills. So when I was growing, my business journey, I learned the skill of how to become a very good health expert, right? I went to school, I put in thousands of hours, I had practical experience, but I was shit when it came to business. I had no idea, I had no skill, I had no clarity, and tactics were all over the place. So eventually when I got some clarity and tactical know-how, I'm like, cool. And then over time and practicing the right things, I started to build my skill. I became better at writing, better at speaking, better at influence, all that stuff. And then what happened is my first business, it became so successful that dozens upon dozens of other health experts, New York Times best-selling authors, some of the biggest supplement companies you might know of, started coming to me and asking me for business advice. And I thought to myself, maybe there's an opportunity here in the marketplace where I could teach the skills that I've now developed in business and marketing and sales to other health professionals so that they can get better and collectively we can reach more people. And that's how Healthpreneur was born. But I was able to do what I do now because I had spent so many years developing the skills because I was in the business of building the business. I didn't outsource it to some agency. I didn't outsource all my stuff to a VA. I learned the skills of how to run ads, how to write emails, how to do sales calls, all the stuff. And now I am this treasure chest. So I'm not going to blow my own horn, but I'll just use this as an example. I'm a treasure chest of knowledge because of the skill development. And not only has it helped our business grow exponentially, but I can teach these skills to other people. So I become more valuable to the marketplace. So please understand that when you look at people who've achieved a lot of things in life and they have all the cool stuff, they don't, like, the majority of them obviously are self-made, right? They didn't like land into a trust fund of money. And when I say self-made, I'm not saying they're the only person in their ecosystem that got them to that level. They're self-made in the sense that they built the skills. They took the time, they invested in themselves to learn from others, to invest in workshops, to mastermind and coaches, whatever, to build the skills to get exceptionally good at what they do. And because they're exceptionally good at what they do, the market rewards them. And that's how they make so much money. And then they go off and do their other things if they want to, okay? So these first three levels are massively important. Clarity, what to do. Tactics, how to do it. Skills, how to do it properly. Now, you just rinse and repeat and you get better. Okay, now above this line, these next three investments are money dependent no matter what. Okay, so there's no like you can find this information online. This is like you have to invest your money in this stuff. And this is when you start to get a multiplier effect on your investments. So above skills, and just to be clear, this is the sequence of investments you want to be making. So level 4 is accountability. Now, I'm going to put an asterisk around this one. Accountability is how to do it consistently. No one achieves anything. Like you can learn how to do something properly. You're not going to do anything remarkable by doing it once in a while. Accountability is doing it all the time. So this is especially true when you're relatively novice in business or anything for that matter. So as an example, if someone wants to get in shape, right? So they know what to do. Okay, don't sit on the couch. Do this type of workout instead. Okay. I'm going to do 3 sets of squats, a minute of plank, bench press, like the tactics. And they're going to just do it properly by learning the skills. Hopefully they're working with the trainer. And then the other piece to that is the accountability. So I work with my trainer twice a week when I'm back home in Canada, but being in Mexico, I don't have my trainer. And I've noticed that the quality of my workouts is subpar compared to that. And the reason for that is because I'm not accountable to anyone in this moment. To be honest, I should have just said, hey, I'll continue paying you. And you just show up on Zoom or on FaceTime and just make sure I do the workout. So accountability, when you are early on in a journey, I'm not saying I'm early on in fitness, but if you have an aspect of your life where you're finding it hard to stay to the plan, pay someone to keep you accountable. Coach, trainer, whatever. Because now you have that money you've invested. You're not just going to piss it down the toilet. And this is especially important when you're starting something new. So when you're starting a business, the most important time to have a coach is when you're first starting for all of these reasons. And also you don't have the discipline yet to be accountable. So it's like you're learning, if you look at the school system, like you're in kindergarten, grade 1, you don't have the self-reliance or discipline yet to do this successfully on your own. I've been in business for 20 years now. I don't need accountability. So in the masterminds and coaching programs that I'm a part of, I don't go to them for accountability. I go to them for clarity. And this is why I will invest 6 figures a year minimum in coaching, and I don't even show up half the time. And it's not that I don't need to show up on the coaching calls. It's not that I don't see value in those. It's just like my focus is on other things at this stage of the game, but I still see the value in them because I will get clarity and I'll get the tactical know-how. Or I can share that with my team. So for me, it's like I look at it's not even an expense, it's an investment. Even if I don't use it this month, even if I don't lean into it this month, as soon as I have that one stuck point and I know I can get clarity in a moment, that's worth every penny, because clarity buys you speed. And you're not going to get clarity from yourself a lot of times because you don't know what you don't know. So if you're trying to get on the other side of this mountain and you're not sure how to do it, it would make sense to learn from someone who's already been on the other side of the mountain. So it's the same with accountability. Accountability, generally, I would recommend as early on as possible. I wish I had gotten out of my own way and hired a coach way earlier in the process. And I think I would have been a lot further ahead than I am now, but that's okay. So for you, no matter where you are, if you feel you need someone to keep you accountable, well, just friggin' hire a coach, right? Pay someone good money. And because you're paying, you're going to pay more attention. As you go further into the journey of business, you're not going to need as much accountability. Like, you're still going to need community and other people who are at that same level, but you're not going to need someone as much to say, hey, you, make sure you show up and do this. You're like, dude, like I didn't get to this level by not doing things. I get it, right? So accountability is really important early on, a little bit more loose as we grow. That's why I put an asterisk as we go through this. So accountability is how to do it consistently. You do it over and over again, and hopefully by doing it repeatedly over time, you in and of yourself, build the discipline and consistency muscle where you can do the thing you know you need to do over and over again, and it's not this up and down roller coaster. And if you find that it is an up and down roller coaster, hire someone to keep you accountable. A much better use of your money than putting it into stocks that are going to perform 9% every year. Number 5, people. So people, if we look at what to do, how to do it properly, how to do it consistently, this is do it at scale. You can only grow your business so much by yourself, right? You're lucky. You would be a friggin' unicorn if you got to $1 million by yourself. So at some point, you're going to have to hire other people. And I'll tell you this right now. These last two, these are the force multipliers. When you have unbelievable people around you, your life becomes so much easier. When you have the wrong people around you, it is so much harder. So please understand that people are an incredible asset, and they can also be a very big liability if they're the wrong people. So remember in principle number 1, I talked about you always get what you pay for. Same thing happens with people. When you hire people on the cheap, don't be surprised and disappointed when that's exactly what you get. And here's the cool thing about people. What do you think? So if you are looking at how to invest your money right now through this process, think about how you can help your people develop. Well, isn't this process very similar? So you can develop your people using this very same process. You bring someone onto your team, you give them clarity about what needs to be done. You show them how to do it, you help them build the skill to do it properly, and you keep them accountable to do it consistently based on certain metrics. So this very same process for investing your money is exactly the same process you can use to develop amazing people. And when you bring people in who are exceptional A+ players, they will tell you this stuff. They will tell you what to do. They will show you how to do it properly. They will help you develop the skill of becoming a better leader to them, and they will help you stay accountable to the bigger objectives of the business in many cases. So it goes both ways. So people are a phenomenal investment. So the question I asked earlier is, if I gave you $1 million tomorrow, what would you invest in? If you were to ask me that question, because here's the thing, is every decision you make with your money has an opportunity cost. So when I take money out of my business, for instance, to buy and build our dream house in Mexico, which is, to be honest, an investment property that we spend a few months of the year in, that has an opportunity cost. The opportunity cost is I could have left the money in the business. I could have done that. And had I left that money in the business, what could I have done with that money? Well, I could have hired unbelievable, exceptional people faster. But I made the decision at that moment in time that this home, at least for me, was more important, and I was willing to delay that type of growth in the business. And we've still grown the business tremendously year over year. But had the money stayed exclusively in the business, it would have grown faster. That's why when you look at a lot of venture capital-based companies or venture-backed companies, they grow faster. Because if you do a round of funding and you raise $10 million, what do you think they're doing with the $10 million? They're going out and hiring unbelievable people. C-suite executives, developers, sales reps, the whole bit on day one. Now, when you bootstrap, you're piecemealing it together layer by layer. But as the business grows and as you have more money, you will be faced with decisions. So what I'm sharing with you is if you keep more of the money in the business and you reinvest in stuff like this, skills, people, etc., you will grow faster. If you take more money out of the business, then you compromise your ability to use that money for these things, and the business will grow slower. Either one is fine as long as you're aware of what you're doing. I made a very conscious decision when I decided to buy this investment property because number one, I'm sick and tired of renting Airbnbs where I'm working from the kitchen. Why don't I build the house that I would friggin' love to live in and rent? And in the bigger picture, this becomes a huge investment vehicle. I mean, The Bachelor has approached us to use our house for the show, right? So you can look at this as it's a short-term withdrawal out of the business to produce a bigger long-term investment / return. But all that to say that because I took the money out of the business from its profit and dividends, I chose to take a little bit of a slower growth curve that maybe would have been faster had I had that money in the business to hire all these people, if that makes sense. So people are an incredible asset, but you got to pour into them. And please understand that all of your problems will be people related and all of your solutions will be people related, but you always get what you pay for. So when I talk about don't cut corners on this, I'm really serious about this. Like, do your best to pay people, good people, great people, what they're worth and give them a big upside. And also, you start where you start, right? Like, you're not going to make C-level executive hires when you're in your first 10K months. Like, that's not going to happen. So please understand that you will continue to evolve your hiring process and criteria and skill as your business grows. Okay, the final level of investment are assets. So what I just shared with you about our house is an asset. Now, what's interesting is initially it's not like an asset puts money in your pocket, a liability takes money out of it. An asset gives you time and freedom and energy back. A liability does the opposite. So right now with Casa Yuri, which is our house in Mexico, it's actually not an asset. It's all cash. There's no mortgages here. So that's a large chunk of change. Here you go. But it now will become an asset because as we start to rent it out, as we start to have opportunities like weddings and The Bachelor and different things, this becomes a very big cash cow. So when I talk about investing in assets, real estate is an example of it, but your own primary residence is not an asset. Because think about it this way. If the home you live in is an asset, then it would be making you more money than you're paying for the home. So if you have a home that has a mortgage on it and property taxes and insurance, and that's all leaving your bank every month, that's a liability. Now you could say, well, when you sell it, you have equity and that becomes an asset. Yes, but in the interim, from a cash flow perspective, it's actually costing you money to live in the house. So please understand that your primary residence is not in the interim an asset. So whether you choose to buy one is up to you. But the difference is if you invest in your business, like in intellectual property, in your brand, in systems and processes that will allow the business to scale, those are assets because you put money in and they print money. So an asset could be like you're running your perfect client pipeline, by the client getting system I alluded to earlier. That's an example of that's an example of an asset. You could say you could build that out way before all this stuff, and theoretically you should. But the difference is that because it's driven by ads, if you take the money, if I gave you $1 million and I said, what are you going to do with it? You're like, I'm just going to throw it into my perfect client pipeline, assuming your numbers look good. That might be a very good use of your money. I actually had this conversation with one of our clients. He's like, hey, I've got this cash. What should I do with it? And I said, make sure your numbers are dialed in. Okay? Green all across. And as soon as that happens, you start dumping the money into this asset, which is your perfect client pipeline, because it is a force multiplier. Leverage is what you get from assets and people. You can think of assets partially as systems And these assets are going to help you multiply even faster. So if you look at the progression of this investment, we at the bottom learned what to do, how to do it properly, how to do it consistently, how to do it at scale, and then multiply the whole thing. If you take your money that you're generating in your business and you invest it into these vehicles, as opposed to going to buy a car, as an example, or going to buy a house, you will grow significantly faster than anything else you could put your money in. But I also understand that, very much like me, you probably want to enjoy the fruits of your labor. So if you want to pull money out of your company and go buy your car and take a trip, hey, do it. Enjoy life. Like, what's the point of building a business if you can't even enjoy the fruits of your labor? But please make those types of investments, understanding that they generally don't have the same ROI that you would get from this. Like, if you have crypto, yeah, crypto's awesome. It can be very volatile. You can also say the same for your business. The difference is you've got 100% control over your business. You have no control over Bitcoin. So yes, there's probably a lot of money that's been made from crypto. But if you look at safer investments like the stock market or index funds that are growing 9 to 10% per year on average, if you took the same amount of money that you put into those index funds, call it $100,000. Like, if you took $100,000 out of your business and you had structured things properly so you could still invest that tax-free, which is a series for another video. Okay, cool. You make $10,000 on that $100,000, right? Through that 10% return on a year. But if you took that $100,000 and said, I'm going to leave this in the business and I'm going to hire someone for $100,000 who will completely remove me out of this one area and they can do it better, man, just imagine how much more of a return they could produce. Or I'm going to take the $100,000 and I'm going to dump it into my perfect client pipeline because I know my numbers are looking good. I'm getting calls booked for $50. I'm enrolling clients for 400, whatever it is. I just need more money here. Go. You will get 100 times the return than you would investing in index funds. So I understand there's also the argument for, you have all this money, you want to have a bit of safety, you want to have a bit of stability. I totally get that. But please understand that anytime you're making a decision with your money, there's an opportunity and an opportunity cost. And as long as you're aware of the opportunity cost and the decision you're making, it's totally cool. I'll finish with this. When I purchased my McLarens, I knew they were not an investment. They were a liability, not an asset. And I said, at best, if they maintain their value, cool. But even if they don't, and I'm not expecting them to because I'm going to drive them into the ground where it doesn't make sense anymore, the joy I would have gotten from driving them still would have been worth it. So we're actually, as I'm shooting this video, I've decided to sell the 720. And the reason for that is because it's turned into a repair nightmare, which is not even worth having anymore. I have another video that's going to talk a bit more specifically about that. So that car, had I not taken the money to purchase that money could have stayed in the business. But I also understood that for me, I wanted that. I've built this business so I can enjoy life in whatever way I want. And also, it doesn't put my business in jeopardy, right? I could have purchased several of them, not I'm going to put all my money into this car and I can't even afford gas. So please understand the distinction there. So all this to say that when you have money at your disposal, you have a boatload of cash, what you do with it has implications. And what I'm trying to hopefully get off in this video to you is that the more you reinvest in you and your business, the bigger the returns you will see. Maybe not today, but 5-10 years down the road, 1,000,000%. So please do not look at coaching as an expense. It is the ultimate investment in yourself. It is the ultimate investment in you. But choose your coaches and guides and mentorship wisely because you always get what you pay for. And the only thing more expensive than free advice is bad advice from a coach who doesn't know what they're doing. So I hope this has made sense. What I'd love to know from you in the comments below is which of these 6 levels do you feel most resonates with where you're at right now? Is it clarity? Is it people? Is it assets? I'd love to know below in the comments. And if you've enjoyed this video and found it helpful, hit the subscribe button. I've got hundreds of other videos on this channel to help you make more money in the service of other people. And hopefully with this framework, you'll be able to just invest that money a little more wisely so you can make more in the future, help more people, and live a much better quality of life in the process. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you in the next one. Today, I'm going to share with you 10 gaps that are likely leaking profit out of your coaching business, whether you have an existing one or you're looking to start one, transitioning online, etc.